I'll never forget, 18 years old, and I'm on the basketball court. Coach says, René, corner three-point drill. Yes, coach, run over, team follows me, shooting three-point drills. René, top of the key, three-point drill. Okay, yes, coach, run over to the top of the key, three-point drill. This is after 15 years of giving my life to basketball. I'd finally achieved what I thought was my dream. I'm leading a team, and the coaches see my value. This is the end of a 2-week tryout my sophomore year in college. I'm as confident as can be, walking tall, feeling good, playing with my friends. They're looking to me for leadership, and we go in the locker room, and part of what you do is you look and make sure your name's not on that list. And I walk over there, not thinking twice, just to sort of check it off the list so I can go forward. And I look, and I see my name, and it says, René, come see me. So, okay. All right, must be a health issue. Maybe I didn't take an exam. Maybe I didn't do the physical, something like that. And so I go, and he sits me down, and he says, René, I want you to help manage the team this year. Which basically said, I'm cut. Now, 15 years of my life as a kid, thinking that this was my dream, this is what I was going to do, I felt it crash on top of me. Now, if you knew my backstory, this was year after year after year of the same sort of experience, but I just kept moving forward, and I finally felt like this was it. But there was no other year. This was college. There was no other waiting till next year. This was the final goodbye. And I remember feeling devastated. I didn't like school. I didn't want to do anything else. All I had was basketball. And so I got a chance to speak with an executive. This was probably 2 weeks afterwards. He was friends with my mother, and he said, how's basketball going? And I said, it's over, it's gone. And he looked at me, he'd been clients of my mother's for a long time, and he was a CEO of a big company, and he said, what do you mean? I said, yeah, honestly, I don't want to talk about it. I said, but I do have one question for you. I have more discipline and hard work and focus than I know what to do with, and I don't want to put it towards school because I don't like it. What's the one thing I got to do now to be in your shoes when I get older? He steps back, and he looks at me, and he says, René, you learn how to sell. If you learn how to sell, you'll always be employed. Now, at 18 years old, I didn't ask any questions. I thought, okay, what's selling? I didn't really understand that. So 2 weeks later, I get this letter in the mail. It says, you've been selected because of your GPA to join this fast-paced sales and marketing company in the health and wellness industry. I thought, sales and marketing, that's what I'm supposed to do. And health and wellness, I love to work out. This is great. Basically, I was being recruited to sell cookware door to door. Yeah. I showed up, and I remember to get into college, I had to be part of what's called the probationary program. And that's with all the other minorities, and we clean toilets. We're janitors basically the first year, and we have to maintain a 2.0. And so I had made more money that summer than I ever made in my entire life. I made $968. And I kept it all in once in this drawer. And every once in a while, I'd be like, watching TV, I'd be like, and I'd put it back, and I'm like, wow, $900 was so cool. And he comes out, they're coming out for this thing, I'm ready to go, I'm supposed to be in sales, and he says, he's about to introduce the franchise dealer, and he says his first summer he made $9,000. And something clicked. It was like as if my worry about basketball and everything went away, and my focus honed in to think of another zero on that at 18 years old. And it wasn't even about the money. There was a competitive nature to it. There was something about saying, if he did it, what do I have to do that? See, one of the reasons I love talking to salespeople is that we're a weird bunch. I mean, most of us here don't get paid salary. Most of us basically say, I'll eat what I kill. And the thing is, basically, we're all kindred spirits in the sense that we're told to go believe in something. So go believe in something, and then we want you to tell everybody what you believe. And oh, sorry, most people are going to hate you, slam the door in your face, and tell you that you're pushy and sleazy, you'll be the butt of most jokes. Your family's going to be like, oh, you're in sales? But don't take it personally. But believe in it with your heart and soul, but don't take it personally. That never stuck for me. Because if you want me to believe in something, you're damn right it's personal. But here's what I've come to find out, is that the best salespeople, we do take it personally. But we just have really good coping methods for it, which is why we do stuff like this. We're coming here to deal with the realities of the constant rejection. And so I wanted to share that story because I asked myself before I go speak, so I have a conversation in the back, to, is like, why am I here? Like, I know the content. I've been doing this almost 30 years. And I know the content, and I absolutely love Oracle and what you guys are doing. Your leadership team is amazing. Every conversation I've had with a lot of you has been always great. You're the only company that shows up 30 minutes. 90% of you sitting here 30 minutes before the session. Most salespeople are 30 minutes afterwards just start rolling in. And I said, well, why am I here? And in my conversations I sat with Greg and David and Boyd and everybody else, what really struck me was that you all are here not because of money, not because of anything else other than helping thousands of other small, local community dealers, hardware stores beat the big bullies. Just like I felt being cut on the team when I got into basketball and I was told that if I know how to sell, I'll always be employed. It makes me think of those smaller companies out there that maybe they feel like they're going to get cut by the market or they're going to get undercut by something. But I'll tell you this, if we teach them how to sell, we teach them how to do the things we do, we use the value propositions that you guys are doing, we can fulfill that mission. So that's why I'm here. I thought about that and that struck me. But for us to get there, we're going to have some fun for the next 53 minutes. I'm going to talk to you about some things that hopefully are new and unique, but internally, once I talk about them, you're going to already know what they mean. And so before we do that, we have a massive challenge in front of us. I have a challenge as well, is that we live in a highly distracted world. We are dealing with companies and associations spending billions and billions of dollars just trying to capture our attention, whether it be a swipe, a like, a purchase, something that has to do with our attention. And we have these phones that are portals to our attention. Social media and the digital world constantly bombarding us with, hey, look at me, hey, buy me, hey, look at this. We've never been more accessible in our life. And the big challenge, though, to understand how that works, because I think we're past the information age. I think we're in the age of attention. It's where the attention goes is where all money flows. And so in this highly distracted world with everybody saying, hey, look at me, look at our price, how do I stand out? How do I keep your attention? How do you capture the attention of your children? How do you capture the attention of your customer, your spouse, your team? To understand that, there's a concept that we need. To understand. And that's the feeling that you have just right now after me doing that. And so I want to ask you, I ask questions all the time, what did you feel, what first went through your mind when I made that face and walked off stage? Just blurt it out. Where'd it go? What's wrong? Give me more. Did I forget something? Keep going. He's up to something. Smart man. What was that? I wanted your attention. Say that again. Who's on stage? Okay. So let's look at what happened. So we're going to talk about this word called narrative. So narrative is the story that we tell ourselves to explain the world around us. So why is that important? So a narrative is how we also construct and compartmentalize memories. It's how we understand when I say the world around. So the narrative right now is I'm the keynote speaker at this event. You guys are seeing this event, and we're all here, and all of a sudden that narrative makes sense. Narratives are how we construct reality. Kind of an important thing for us to understand, how we construct reality. And so as this narrative's going along, and everything's fine, and then boom, stops, René walks off stage. What did our brains immediately do? It filled it. There's a gap here, right? The narrative stopped and there's this gap and we go, now first, usually emotion kicks in. And as that emotion kicks in, assumptions begin. Somebody's smart, he's up to something. Oh, he must want our attention. What happened? Is there something off stage? Did he have to go to the bathroom? What's going on? All these things happen and your brains immediately filled it. The reason your brains filled it is because that narrative is your reality. And we can't have any gaps or breaks in reality. We have to draw upon something to fill it so that our reality continues. Even if it's wrong, even if it's completely wrong, we still have to fill it. Here's the challenge. Almost every person in this room that filled it with something was wrong, but we didn't care. And so I'll give you an example. So let's say you're all in a meeting and CEO of the meeting, not Boyden, he wouldn't do this, CEO of the meeting doesn't show up to the meeting. One person says, oh, they didn't show up, must be out getting another yacht. I don't know how many yachts he needs. Okay, it might be one way to fill the gap. Another person in the same exact meeting says, wait, hold on a second, John didn't show up? Something must be wrong, let me go check on him. Another way to fill the same gap in the narrative. But here's what I struggled with, and this is where my study, and if you don't know, my background is in behavioral neuroscience, so I study this stupid stuff. Why is it, if reality is just reality, then why did two people just construct two different realities? One went to greed and a yacht, the other went with concern and empathy. Why? Well, let's think about that for a minute. Experiences, great answer. We had to draw upon our past experiences to be able to fill the narrative gap to construct the reality. And so now, you had two people with two different experiences. One with the yacht probably had negative leaders in the past. Leaders that might have been greedy, leaders that really maybe didn't care about their people. The person who went to empathy and concern probably knew the CEO's story. And so he drew from the story of the person, not their own personal experience. I want you to just think about the power of that moment of choice. How many gaps in our reality, in our narrative, daily narrative, do you think we run up against every day? Hundreds, if not thousands. Now, if that's true, that most of our life has gaps and we're forced to fill those with assumptions, then it's fair to say that most of our life is an assumption. Most of our life is an assumption. But then the question is, how are people filling the gaps of the experience with me, my company? Because if there's all these gaps, right now, I'll tell you this, there's a race to be the source of the narrative gap. The media wants to be the source of the gap because they want your ad spend and your attention. Politics and politicians, they want to be the source of the gap because they want your votes. Your competitors want to be the source of the narrative gap because they want your business. Everybody, you all in here, if I were to venture, your number one task that I want you to have this year is to be the source of the gap for your customers. I think I want to be the source of the narrative gap for my kids. When something doesn't make sense, I want my kids to go, Dad, what do you think? But what if they said, something goes wrong and they go, Dad, you don't know what you're talking about, which does happen. That's a failure on my end. Now, if it's around things like music, they don't come to me. Dad, you don't know good music anymore. I'm like, but no, the 90s were awesome. Let's get back to real music like the 80s, right? Remember that? I don't even understand today's music. Sorry, guys, if there's any of you in here. But what if they come to us? So the question is what determines then, who do you turn to? And something as simple as saying, it's the one that I believe. Okay, well, what determines what I believe? And you know the answer to this. It's the one that I trust. And so if I were to outline what today's goal for me is I want to give you a formula for becoming the trusted source of the narrative gaps in your relationships. We can talk about sales techniques, but you guys are all pros. I ask this question over and over and over to the leadership team. You guys are coming off record years, continuously record years. You all know selling. So then which is what I love, because then I say, okay, so then let's talk about the next level of more than just selling. Let's talk about persuasion. Let's talk about influence, which to me is the ultimate. How do I influence someone? So what's influence? For me, let's take a look at the opposite of influence for a minute. You walk in a room, no one notices. You tell a joke, no one laughs. Sell a product, no one buys. You have an idea, no one cares. You cast a vision, no one follows. How are you feeling? Some people might say invisible. Most would say, I got more to prove. That's a good attitude. See, that's a good sales guy right there. Well, I better grab them by the throat and make sure they listen. But most people would say they feel insignificant. Now play that out for a minute. If I feel insignificant, that means what I do has zero impact on the world around me. And if I have zero impact on the world around me, then I start to question, well, why the hell am I here? You ever been in a meeting where you try to say something, idea, and no one cares? Then you start questioning, well, why the hell am I here? I'm clearly adding no value. I do not want it here. I'm going to pick up and go somewhere else. Well, what if you felt that way about life? Do you pick up and just go elsewhere about life? See, I think that influence is at the core source of finding, because really we feel at that point we have no purpose. So influence to me is about purpose. It's about significance. Now go the opposite of that. This is how I understand influence. You walk in a room, people take notice. Tell the joke, people laugh. Sell the product, people buy. You share an idea, people get excited. You cast a vision, and they follow. How do you feel now? People might say, important. I might feel significant. Why? Because I seem to have now impact. And the moment you feel significant, and the moment you feel like you are creating and having an impact, immediately that leads to purpose. This must be why I'm here. So, this is so much more than persuasion. Influence, to me, is about leaving our mark on the world and understanding that. So I'm setting a big goal in how to get there. But now I got another big challenge. So I grew up in Miami, Florida. My mother is by far the most influential person in my life. And she was actually a nun for 8 years. But by far my favorite part of her story is the fact that she decided not to be a nun anymore. Thank God. Checking to see if you're awake. For those that didn't laugh, just explain it to them over break.